So today I want to talk about the ongoing saga that is the Big Ten Conference, Dan Patrick, and what are we actually doing, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related. Sports related, we have a good time. We live stream on Mondays and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock Tulsa time. Check the community tab, drop a question in there. I hope I can get to it. If you leave a positive 5-star review on the RJ Young Show podcast, I will read it on the live show. I'm really thrilled to see so many people that actually are consuming that podcast. And the Saturday podcast has become very popular. Lots of downloads on the Quincy Avery conversation, which I'm very happy about. He was gracious enough to talk with me for about half an hour about what he looks for in quarterback recruiting, what he looks for in quarterback fundamentals, and what are the traits that he thinks you can take as a young quarterback from NFL players like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, and on it goes. So download the RJ Young Show podcast. I have another guest lined up for this Saturday that I'm very excited to share with you. All right, let's talk about the Big Ten. So Dan Patrick has been doing this thing where the last couple of weeks he's been giving rumor. Not reported fact, but rumor. Source. No names. One source in particular, but apparently his source seems to be highly placed. And he's doing the sports talk radio thing, which, I know what you're doing, and many other people know what you're doing, but that's where we're at right now. We're taking Dan Patrick's word on the Big Ten planning to vote today on a return to football and what that might look like. And we have so many conflicting views on this, right? Like Brett McMurphy comes out for Stadium to say, look, they're going to vote. If they do, they're going to vote for everybody to play or nobody to play. They're not going to be these Rutgers or Maryland opt-outs. We got Dan Patrick saying that you know who's going to vote which way. You know that Michigan State's presidents don't want to play. We know that Wisconsin wants to play but might not be able to, whatever the hell that means. Rutgers doesn't want to play. Maryland wants to play but might not be able to because of state restrictions. And on it goes. The only thing that seems to be sure is these opt-outs are going to keep coming. Shaun Wade chose to opt out of playing Big Ten football earlier this morning. He has a first-round draft grade by many draft analysts. And the reason that he came back in the first place was to prove to the NFL that he could play outside corner as opposed to slot corner. And he wanted a shot at winning a national championship. They might be the most talented football team in the country had they been able to keep all their parts. Now they've lost a first-round draft pick in Wyatt Davis and a first-round draft pick in Shaun Wade. That's one on each side of the ball. I expect those to keep coming. We also have Dan Patrick saying, look, the medical committee has done a really great job of presenting their information to the Big Ten Return to Football Task Force. Problem I have with that is that task force already wanted to play football. I mean, one of the guys on that task force is Scott Frost. You'll remember last month, Scott Frost said, we want to play football. Our chancellor wants to play football. Then Ronnie Green comes out on the radio and says, I don't necessarily think that we're going to get to play football, and I don't necessarily think that it's a good thing that we play football. Then we get open records requests showing that on July 30th, Ronnie Green sent emails to Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren saying, hey, doesn't sound like we got a plan in place if we're going to go through with this, and we want to know that we can go get some games if at all possible, to which Warren just kind of pushed that to the side. So now we have all of this hullabaloo over the weekend that might or might not lead to a vote, that might or might not allow some teams to play and some teams not to, that might or might not get the season kicked off on October 17th so that they can have a conference championship and a conference champion that is eligible for the playoff, because not a whole hell of a lot has changed, right? The only thing that seems to be very clear about what we're seeing from the Big Ten is that the Big Ten has royally screwed up and is trying to CYA. Because whether or not you're on the side of play or not play is immaterial when we're talking about the Big Ten. Because if they had done what the SEC chose to do, or even what the Big 12 or ACC chose to do, and just stay quiet and say we're going to wait and we're going to see what data shows up and we don't make a decision until it is absolutely positively time to make a decision, we won't. Unless we see something that shows us that people are going to actually get sick and die, we're not going to change a damn thing. Again, it does not matter right now whether or not you're on the side of play or not play. You can agree that there are things that they could have done in the Big Ten to help with this messaging and to get out of this situation where they're having to reconsider a vote that they already took over a month ago about whether or not to play football, all while you have kids that are still going to practice, that are still going through workouts, and that are still praying to have a college football season. On top of this, last Friday, we got Ryan Day eviscerating his conference, and he is the most powerful coach in his conference because he's 17-1, and the Big Ten has become an Ohio State league in the same way that the Big 12 is an Oklahoma league. And as bad as the Big 12 is this Saturday, going 0-3 against Sun Belt teams, and really having to depend on Oklahoma, Texas, and West Virginia to get you a W over the weekend, the one thing that everybody that is pro football and pro play fall football is very excited about is that the Big 12 was able to pull it off, even with guys that tested positive for COVID throughout the week and weren't able to play. You got Arkansas State into Bill Snyder Family Stadium. You got a really great game. They seem to be ready to go for Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. The same thing with Oklahoma and Missouri State. Right now, it can't be about your competition, not in September. If it's about your competition in November and we're still playing football, by God, we're going to have that discussion. We're going to have that debate, and I'm here for it. But right now, still just talking about this is such a terrible look. And then we have Dan Patrick as the mouthpiece for whoever is pro Big Ten football when we have other national college football reporters like Nicole Auerbach, like Bruce Feldman, like Stuart Mandel, who are out, Pete Thamel, who are out here actually dropping what they think is interesting news and nuggets. But the one thing they've all said is that nobody knows anything. And if you need 9 votes, and you know that 6 of those votes are already cast, right? And you're trying to sway one of them, who's left to sway? Who do you need to convince? Because at this point, I don't think it's about testing or coronavirus. I think it's about, do you have the money? And do you have the public health officials in your state on your side to play football? Because Maryland playing in an empty stadium, nothing new for them. But still, right? Does Maryland stand to make some money from this? Probably. Does Rutgers? Probably. But this whole opt-in, opt-out football team thing ain't going to work. And I think we all know it's not going to work. All that seems to be up for discussion now is how bad is it going to get before it gets better in the Big Ten? Because your reputation right now is absolutely in the trash in as far as the Power Fives, which is a real terrible look. And I didn't think it was possible. But the Pac-12 looks better just because they have kept themselves congruent, and their continuity is we're not playing football until the fall. Meanwhile, the Big Ten is trying to tear itself apart. Deuces.